Today, I want to show you how to retouch skin professionally within Lightroom, as not everyone wants to learn complicated software like Photoshop, nor do we want to pay higher prices for Adobe's add-on services. So today, I want to dive deep into my method for manually retouching skin in Lightroom for soft, even skin tone. So let's jump onto Lightroom and jump right into it. So before you jump into retouching the skin of your portrait, it's really important to edit the photo first so the overall tone, exposure, and color are locked in. This way your skin retouching will blend naturally and just won't look out of place. The way that I like to edit to get natural, flattering, and soft skin tone during the editing phase before retouching is I like to bring my whites down and lift my blacks and add the contrast back into the tone curve. This approach gives you a much better starting point and even contrast in the skin tone. And if you're unsure what the tonal panel does compared to the tone curve, I've made a separate video which you can check out, linked in the description down below. So let's jump onto the computer, quickly edit a photo, and then start the skin retouching phase. Alright guys, so here is a recent photo that I took on the Hasselblad X2D with its medium format 100 megapixel sensor. And the reason why I chose this photo is that we have a ridiculous amount of sharpness and detail in this face, and even though Tilly the model has great skin, we can see a lot of these pores and imperfections that we want to tidy up, and we also want to add sharpness and clarity into the eyes, the eyebrows, and the lips. So it's really important that we go ahead and edit our photo before the retouching phase, just to make sure that all of the exposure, the contrast, and the color in our image is consistent, and also it eliminates the chance of getting any weird banding or artifacts. So my quick workflow is I just apply one of my presets from my V-Free film pack and I just adjust my exposure, and that's pretty much it. If you like the way that these presets work, go check out the description down below and get yourself 20% off. Now, if I just click on the face, that's going to zoom in and you can see that we're way too close. So I go up to the top left here to these little arrows and I'm going to bring this down to about 50%, which is fine, and we can see the entire face, as you don't want to be moving this while we're retouching. Now, the first thing you want to do is you want to come up to the removal tool, and you have three different modes. You have the removal, which now uses AI, you have a spot healing tool, and then you also have a clone stamp. Now, I don't use these tools anymore because this new generative AI is absolutely fantastic, and make sure that you have ticked use generative AI. And then all I do is I just go through and I'm just going to remove all these little spots or blemishes from the portrait. Now, some photographers like to leave these freckles or these little moles in the image because that's the model's identity, so definitely reach out before you do that. But for today's purposes, I just want to show you the power of this AI. Once we've made all our selects, we come down here, we click remove, and we let AI do its thing. All right, cool guys. So now AI has done its thing. It is time to start to retouch the skin. And how we do that is we go up to the masking tool up here on the top right, and AI is going to start detecting people. Click on the person, and we only want it to affect the facial skin, and then we go create mask. Now, before we do anything, I like to name these masks. So I'm going to call this skin, and that will become relevant shortly. You can see Lightroom's done a great job, but it has added too much of the eyelashes and the eyelids, as well as the eyebrows, the lips, and also the nose. So we're just going to subtract that by hitting the subtract key up here. I'm going to come down to brush, and then I'm simply going to have 100% feather, 100% flow, and 100% density. And I'm just going to add that detail back in away from the mask. In the eyes, I'm going to do it on the eyebrows, and I'm also going to do it on the lip, and then down here in the nose. So I'll do that now, and I'll be with you in a second. So I've just done that now, and I made a small mistake by bumping myself, and to add that back into the mask, I just click on the option key and I can just brush that back into and then add it straight back. The next step is I like to blend in this mask so it's less obvious during the skin retouching phase. And to explain the difference between feather, flow, and density, if we have 100% feather, 100% flow, and density, we end up with a mask that looks like that. If we reduce the feather, we end up with a much much sharper mask. And then if we reduce the flow, that's going to slow down the flow that we're going to get. But if we keep brushing over it, you can see that we end up getting back down to the skin. And if we reduce the density, which really should be called opacity, you'll notice that no matter how much we brush over the skin, the mask is only going to be reduced down to 50%, whether the free before allowed for the entire mask to be deleted. Control Z, I'm just undoing that. And what I'm going to do is I like to have 100% feather and just a little bit of extra flow. And then I'm just going to blend this mask in a little bit to my taste. And this is really just going to make it less obvious when we do the skin retouching, as we don't want any sharp edges and we want a nice feathered out mask. And then lastly, I'm just going to fix up this jawline, as Lightroom has slightly bled into the neckline, which you won't notice, but that's just me being picky. So now we have the mask on the skin and we have unselected all of the things that we want to keep sharp and detailed. We're going to scroll down to where the texture, clarity, and dehaze tools are. Now, texture and clarity may seem like they're the same thing, but they do different things. Texture mainly brings down the texture on the very high contrast little points, so that being the pores. Lifting it up, you can see how much more pores you get, while clarity reduces the overall contrast of the skin tone. And if you lift it up, you can see that you do get a different effect from the texture. And then dehaze affects both the contrast and the color. So bringing it down, you end up with a very unnatural looking skin tone. And then bringing it up, you end up with more tanner skin tone. So I actually like to have a little bit of dehaze. I like to bring my texture not too far, about -24, and then I'll bring my clarity down to about -14. Now, I don't judge my skin by the cheeks or the forehead. I'm really just looking at the more softer edges of the skin, because I like to brush over these areas to add more control into reducing the texture in these acne prone and high pore areas, as well as wrinkle areas, because I like to add a mask in by pushing K on the keyboard, which will add a new mask. And I like to just brush over these areas that where the pores are more noticeable, which is typically around our cheeks, forehead, and also the chin. So I've now masked around the areas that the pores are more noticeable, and I'm just going to bring that texture down until it matches these surrounding areas in the skin, as well as the clarity. And now that you can see that just with that extra bit of masking on these areas, we've blended in the skin more seamlessly and it's less noticeable, and you get a much flattering portrait. The next step is to start to enhance these eyes, add detail, add sharpness, and a bit of saturation to the lips. So we go into create new mask and we go select people, back into the person, and this time we're just going to select the eyebrows, create mask. For the eyebrows, I just bring down the blacks a little bit just to give them a little bit extra detail. So I'm just going to name this mask eyebrows. I'm going to go and create a new mask, select people. This time I'm only going to select the lips, and I like to bring the exposure just down a little bit to darken the lips, and then I'll also bring the saturation a little bit higher. And you can also slightly change the hue of the lips to give them a little bit of a pinker tinge. I think somewhere around there looks great. The next mask I'm going to make is called the Eye Secura, which is probably saying that wrong, but basically the white parts of the eyes. And this one, I'm just going to bring up the whites of this area of the eyes just to give them a little bit more pop. And then the last mask I'm going to make is going to be the eyebrows, the eyes, the iris and pupil, the lips, the teeth, and going to create mask. I'm just going to add a little bit of extra sharpening, not too much, just to bring out a little bit extra detail. I'm going to add a little bit of texture and a little bit of clarity, and that's just going to make those areas look much more sharper, more detailed, and also that extra texture. So there's a before and there's an after. Now, the last thing I like to do is I like to add grain, which really just blends in all of the work that we just did and makes it just look more natural when you're viewing it from a larger distance. Now guys, if you don't want to have to retouch a photo every time, I do actually sell a retouch in my portrait pack. So all as I do in terms of my workflow is I apply a preset and then I'll go into retouch the portrait, and that will automatically mask out all of the different things that we just talked about. And we go up to the mask, you can see that I have labeled everything and you can turn it on and off. You can also adjust the amount, so you can slide it up to be more, or if you want a more subtle look as well. So if you do like the way that I edit my photos and you do want to get a fast track to skin retouching in Lightroom, go check out my presets, which are linked in the description down below. Alright guys, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video, and if you want to learn more about how to get softer skin tone in the editing phase, go check out this video right here. And if you want to see my complete full portrait editing workflow and also another way of skin retouching, go check out this video right here. If you like the video, make sure you like the video and subscribe to see more content like this. Bye for now and enjoy the rest of your week.